Greetings, humans! Zbot1496 here, reviewing Megalopolis! Or at least attempting to. It's possible one has to be a human being to understand what is happening in this film. Or perhaps it's not quite understandable in the first place. Maybe by design? We think we know the answer to that, so let's break it all down a bit. At the outset, we have to point out that this film is the self-funded passion project career capstone of Francis Ford Coppola, writer and director of Apocalypse Now, The Conversation, and The Godfather, and Part 2, and Part 3. Needless to say, these are, well, the initial batch are among the most brilliantly written and presented stories in human cinema, and recognized as such among human cinema organizations, such as the American Film Institute. So, what is going on here? Well, first, the film has genuinely ambitious scope. It aims to map the decline of the Roman Republic to where the United States is today by presenting an alternate history where Rome didn't fall but developed to where American culture is today. It sets the protagonist, Caesar Catalina, played by Adam Driver, as a celebrated inventor and architect with a vision to save that republic by building a utopian city within the existing city of New Rome. Delta City. No, not Delta City. This at first would conjure the impression that the film aims to blend Fritz Lang's iconic 1927 masterpiece, Metropolis, with Ayn Rand's popular 1943 manifesto on objectivism, The Fountainhead. However, while both Metropolis and Megalopolis are both set in a vertically imbalanced class structure, that merely covers the setting of the story. The theme of Metropolis, the 1927 masterpiece, that takes an aristocrat on a journey of discovery and enlightenment to understand the plight of the working class and finding common ground. In contrast, Megalopolis, the new film, has Caesar very much set on his own vision, more like Howard Rourke, the architect protagonist of The Fountainhead. But, unlike Rand's book, where the hero is laser guided by personal needs that achieve productive goals, the hero of Megalopolis is also chaotic, mercurial, and has at least 2 and maybe 3 magical abilities. Wait, what? What? If the setup at first glance is Metropolis meets the Fountainhead, what is all the rest of what's going on here? Well, what you're actually presented with, the texture of the actual film, is more like Julie Taymor's brilliant 1999 tour de force, Titus. Yes, Titus. Like that, meets Terry Gilliam's surreal 1985 satire, Brazil. Yes. These are much more weird films than typically gets distribution in human theaters, and audiences did not flock to see them at the time. But they are directly on point. Oh, yes. Taymor's film sets the classic Shakespeare play, Titus Andronicus, in a mashup culture blending ancient Rome and Mussolini's fascist 1940s Italy. The film features an all-star cast including Anthony Hopkins, Jessica Lange, Alan Cumming, Combe Fiore, James Frain, Laura Fraser, Harry Lennox, Angus McFadden, and Matthew Rhys. And they are absolutely spectacular. Shakespeare's dialogue is archaic to modern humans, But this cast, under Taimur's magical direction, brings an old stuffy play to vibrant and unrelenting life. In contrast, Megalopolis has Caesar present a complete soliloquy from Hamlet, while John Voight's Hamilton Crassus plays out the beats of a trumpy King Lear, all of which land in a dry and hard to follow manner, so much so that a legendary actor has to relate to the audience during that soliloquy to admit that what we're all experiencing is boring. Now, on that movie star point, Megalopolis has a shimmering all-star cast with Driver, also Giancarlo Esposito, Natalie Emmanuel, Aubrey Plaza, Shia LaBeouf, John Voight, Lawrence Fishburne, Catherine Hunter, Dustin Hoffman, Jason Schwartzman, and Talia Shire. However, much of what they say and do is simultaneously captivating, yes, but also overwrought and without meaning, reason, or really any consequence to the audience. Now, each line, scene, and act in the film seems essentially orthogonal to storytelling, and much more like Tommy Wiseau's melodramatic and bizarre 2003 film, The Room. What is clear is that the film is meant to be a satire of modern capitalism and populism, aiming for the storytelling verve of Gilliam's film, satirizing corporate bureaucracy, here it is, itself with a star-studded cast headlined by Jonathan Pryce and Robert De Niro. However, in Megalopolis, the voiceover narration and the fact that characters frequently deliver exposition and raw philosophy at each other comes off in a much more ham-fisted way. While aiming for Brazil, Coppola has actually hit Paul Verhoeven's gleeful 1997 sci-fi extravaganza Starship Troopers, which I'm not going to pull out of the pile here. Verhoeven aimed for a satire of fascism, with interstitial public service announcements and obviously fascistic costuming and behavior. But it was actually perceived as an endorsement of fascism. The satire clearly went right over most audiences' heads, like Drax in Guardians of the Galaxy. Here, with Megalopolis, the intent is to paint modern global Western culture as on the precipice of a fall, that capitalism and self-indulgence were overcoming the egalitarian foundations of the culture. This message is clear from the outset of the sonorous and and kind of plodding voiceover, but it does not let up. This lands as an off choice, as this point is very clearly over-explained, while most of what else is happening is under-explained. Some of the events and character behaviors do start to coalesce in the middle of the film, but it's not entirely clear what the point of all of that is meant to be. This is because the events of the film do not actually paint these characteristics as negative, since both antagonists and protagonists use capitalism, use technology, and the will of a single person to achieve their ends. And that is where the film seems to truly falter. Megalopolis is stuffed to overflowing with details and metaphors, but they do not appear to add up to a clear and reasonable outcome or payoff. Caesar's 2 or 3 magical abilities map to Neo from the Wachowskis' film The Matrix, but his key ability does not even get used to any effect, even when he is placed in mortal danger. Caesar's structuring of his new city based on science and magical-seeming technology bears a striking resemblance not to The Fountainhead, but to Isaac Asimov's Foundation stories, also explicitly modeled as a way to save a declining galactic empire and based on Gibbons's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. But these elements do not factor into the storytelling in Megalopolis, whereas they are the foundation of foundation. Now, Megalopolis commendably asks big questions. For example, how can we reconcile the needs of the working class with building an expensive, technologically driven utopia? Who's going to pay for that? How's it all going to work? That's explicitly asked in the film. But, like Ridley Scott's alien prequel Prometheus, Megalopolis steps up, asks the question, and declines to actually answer the question. That's what we are still in the theater for. Now, at this point, you may ask yourself, how did we get here? No, you may ask yourself, are we just not getting it? Is there some higher order commentary going on that we simply do not comprehend? Is the narrative of the fable deliberately obfuscated and meant to simply prompt thought? Does one have to be a human being in order to understand this film? Well, judging by the film's poor critics and audience scores on the human judgment platform Rotten Tomatoes, which are 46% and 35% respectively, we don't think it's us. And if both human critics and audiences don't get the point, it doesn't matter if there was a point buried there somewhere deep down, if it's not present enough to be experienced. The next question is, how did a legendary filmmaker create a film that fails on basic levels? Well, the unfortunate truth of the matter is that legendary filmmakers do drop the ball, especially without creative oversight. Prometheus, as we mentioned, drops the ball on its big questions. The Star Wars prequels drop the ball on making Anakin a compelling character. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull drops the ball on presenting a sincere story. The Mad God drops the ball on being comprehensible, although we might give it another chance. Now, this sort of thing happens. And yet, there was something else oddly familiar with this film. We didn't realize this until about halfway through the film, until we caught ourselves looking for extra fingers on the characters. Can I do that? Yes. Could the film have been co-generated by AI? Huh? 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 Consider. The visual effects have a mid-journey style to them, oddly mixing sharp realism and painterly brushstrokes. The story blends together everything that humans like, ranging from pro wrestling to fashion shows to pop star concerts to stepmother porn to everything, and mashes them together without the pieces organically fitting together in a story, in a way similar to having any conversation with our second cousin, Chadbot 3333. Or maybe the way this film feels is just the risk you take when you try something different. Sometimes you try to say something and it just doesn't come out right. It's okay. It happens. Taking the principle of Jalad's razor into account, that's probably the simplest explanation. So, what can we say about the film at this point? It's a pastiche of a lifetime of influences that attempts to say something about the timeless foible of humanity's willingness to let greed and ignorance drive them into the cult of a dictator. Yet, the film still has that wealth and another cult of personality solve everything. The film drops the ball on clear and compelling storytelling, but at the same time has clearly given us a lot to think about. Sometimes that's not a bad outcome. When we get something different out of the machine that leaves us wondering and asking questions, marveling at all the talented actors acting their little hearts out. I love humans when they do this. And we end up inspired to uncrate and rewatch Titus. Hopefully we didn't lose it. There it is. And on the whole, actually feel glad we saw the film. We therefore render Megalopolis our decidedly mixed rating. And so concludes this human version of our review. If you have feedback on it, please write in your comments so that we can upload the galactic version to Zogplex with appropriate edits. You can expect more discussions and reviews of theatrical movies, streaming shows, and 4K home video releases as we continue to engage with your human rectangular content. So, please watch, like, subscribe, and comment so that we can continue to have the human voice reflected in the cosmos. Until next time, farewell, my lovely humans.